Well, hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I am putting together two basic recipes, ones that I rotate often and especially during the hot summer months. They're things I like to have on hand, and this is especially for the ladies because not only are these budget friendly, they're also really great if you are a woman of a certain age and wanting to improve your digestive health. You want to add a little more fiber to your diet, plus dealing with any of that perimenopausal, can't even say the word, perimenopausal, postmenopausal weight gain. Some of that if you want to lean out and take care of your gut health. These two recipes are going to be for you. So we want to dine deliciously as well as improve our health and dine well on a budget. That's what I am all about. So what I'm putting together first are savory oat patties. I am plant-based. If you've not been here before, my name is Tiffany. I am the founder of Anderson Therapeutics, and my Aging Well channel is all about sharing my holistic approach to health. And this is how I, as a health educator and a wellness coach and a patient advocate, I share ways for people to improve their health and to better manage chronic conditions, because I have found there are three key concepts to improve our health and to manage our health, especially as we are maturing and moving onward on this journey of life. And that is that we soothe to better manage chronic pain, and we nourish because food is medicine and food is delicious. And we also want to rest, and we invest in movement every day so we can have a sound sleep. To put together these savory oat patties, let me show you what I have here on the stove. Okay, for this recipe, it's very simple and it's also very heavily seasoned because the foundation is oats, and I use them for sandwiches and for little breakfast patties, things like that. I have 2 cups of water just coming to the boil. I don't want them at a full boil, just at a simmer, and I've already added just a few drops of liquid smoke. To that, then I have ingredients that will go in order to the water to dissolve and to create kind of a gelatinous texture, so that way it will bring the oat patties together and then they will bake. So I've got flax meal, 1/4 cup of flax meal, a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, and then an entire container here of seasonings. Onion powder, garlic powder, there's fennel in here, there's pepper. I put cayenne and black pepper in here. There's also sage, there's Italian seasoning. I actually wait and I add a little bit of salt right while I'm baking, so you'll see that as the patties come together. There's also just a touch of sweetener, so I've got some honey in here. I'll just add a little bit of that. You could use any sweetener. I've used stevia before. Now that the water is coming to a simmer, we work really fast, and the first thing we want to do is get all of the seasonings in here. Have all of that distributed, and then all of the nutritional yeast. We want that to fully dissolve in the hot water. And then the flax meal. If you've cooked with flax meal, this is also an egg substitute in a lot of plant-based cooking. It's a binder. And then I turned off the heat. This is when I'm going to be adding in a little bit of the sweetener. So it just calls for about a teaspoon. So since honey is super, super sweet, I'm just putting about a tip size on the knife here. Get that in the water so it dissolves. If you've not tried these type of patties before, you might be pleasantly surprised, even if you aren't plant-based. It's of course low in cholesterol. Now we're going to add the oatmeal. This is just the quick oats. So as you stir all of this together really quickly, then it will start to puff up like oatmeal does. And that's where we want that gelatinous texture of the flax meal to bind everything together. Make sure all the flavors are well combined and that there's no dry ingredients left. And then we're just going to let this sit for a minute. I've already got a baking pan lined with parchment, and then I'll just be using a spoon to put about 5 in a line. This ends up making about 25 little patties. And while that mixture was cooling just a little bit and coming together, I took the time to do a few dishes, and now I've just started putting a little bit of the batch in a row here, and I'm just taking a large serving spoon and then going along the edge of the pan and grabbing about this much and putting in. It's almost the shape of a little oval here, and you can place them really tight together on the pan because it's just going to flatten out. There's no raising agent in here, and the smell is amazing. It's very much got the smell of all of that sage and the fennel, and I can smell the pepper, and the nutritional yeast gives it just a hint of a cheesiness along with that liquid smoke as well. After I get these all placed on the pan, then I will be using a fork to flatten them, because I do want them a little bit smoother, and that will help them to get crisp. I've got 35 patties on here, and just like when if you're making peanut butter cookies, just have a fork, dip it in a little bit of water. You can see how quickly it actually came together in the pan, just stirring everything together. The intensive part is basically just putting it on the pan and then giving them a little mash, and then of course they'll need to bake and be turned so that way it's nice and crisp on both sides. And like I said, there's no cholesterol in these, so if you are on a heart healthy diet or are taking care of someone who maybe should be lowering their cholesterol and their blood pressure, this would be a great substitute to try. I adopted a plant-based meal plan many moons ago, and I had high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol, I had a health crisis, and you know, this meal plan, the starch solution, saved my life and improved it in ways that I didn't believe possible. Look in the description, there will be the recipe for this, and I always have timestamps and chapters in my description, so if you want to skip around, skip ahead, feel free to do so. The finishing touch of these before I put them in the oven, what I do after all of these are mashed, then this is balsamic vinegar that I just have in a little spray bottle, the bottles like you get at the dollar store, and then I will just give these 1 or 2 spritzes each and then put on a little dash of salt. You'll actually taste the salt, but it's not salt intensive as far as making it. So that's the nice thing when you salt just the top of the food rather than having the salt in the cooking. That can be really good if you're working on reducing the sodium in your diet. They're all flat, and now I'm just spraying on a little bit of that balsamic vinegar. This is also going to give it a little darker color too. So sometimes when you're cooking things like oats, you know, it can just seem a little dull, though this will definitely enhance the color. It certainly enhances the flavor, gives it a really nice taste. The oven was already preheated at 350 degrees, and these will go in for 20 minutes, and then I will flip them, and they'll cook for another 10-15 minutes, depending on how crispy they look. Okay, I put on a little dash of salt, and now these will go into the oven, and we'll work on the next recipe while these are baking. Okay, now those patties are in the oven, and what I've done now is I've actually opened up my crisper drawer and taken out all of the veggies and things, because this is before I'm going to go shopping. I still had a ton of produce in here, so I'm going to be sorting through this, and then I'm going to be prepping a salad that's going to not only be part of my dinner tonight, though the way I store it, I will be able to have salads probably for the next 3 or 4 days without it getting weepy or spoiled or gooey or anything like that. So I'm going to show you how I've got all of these vegetables that they've been sitting just fine since last week at the grocery store, and how I'm going to be putting together the salad now. I get a lot of questions from people who talk to me about wanting to eat more vegetables, though they always get irritated because they feel like they spend a lot of money on produce and then it spoils. And over the years, I have just learned some different tips and techniques, and knowing which produce will spoil the quickest and how to use it when you're doing your meal planning. So know if you've got really fragile vegetables and things that need to be used earlier in the week. It's how I pace my produce buying and storing, as well as just knowing that there's certain ways that you can store fruits and vegetables so that they last longer. This is one, I mean, this is a Talenti. I had some raspberry sorbet. I love these little containers. When I clean radishes, but I leave the ends intact, and then I just put a little napkin down in here. And so these are already washed and ready to go, though to keep them extra fresh, I just leave them fairly intact, and I only just cut the ends off when I'm going to be making salads. Storing radishes like this, these will stay good for up to 2 weeks. Celery is another vegetable that I will clean right away because, you know, a lot of dirt gets caught in all of the celery stalks. And so I just use a basic water, white vinegar spray to clean all of my produce. I just cut off both ends and then wrap it in a damp paper towel. And then that way throughout the week, then I can just pull out the celery that I want for a meal, for a snack. And for this salad, this is what I've saved. These wonderful, the celery heart. That's my favorite part of the celery. And this will also stay good for about a week with celery. And sometimes sprinkle on a little bit more water just to keep it damp and keep it in your crisper drawer. When I buy bags of spinach, a lot of times I freeze it because if you've seen some of my food videos, I put spinach in nearly everything, and I always have some in the freezer, though I love having it fresh. And just by opening it and placing a little towel in there just to absorb the excess moisture, I just lightly turn it over so it's not tightly sealed. You still want to have some airflow through here, and it'll stay good like this for a week. Mushrooms, this is an old trick. Probably everybody knows this one. Just taking them out of the plastic containers and whatever you've bought them in, and just put them in a brown paper bag, but don't wash them until you need them. English cucumbers, these don't spoil as quickly as traditional cucumbers and even Persian cucumbers, and I will leave them in the plastic covering and then just unwrap it for the portion I need and then wash it beforehand. So this is another thing that needs to be washed. Peppers are also fairly sturdy, and so I will just wash this, cut off what I need. And so when I wash this again before I prep, I will cut off this little edge that's been exposed, because once you've broken that barrier, you know, then that's been compromised. So I'll want to cut that off, but the rest of this pepper is just fine. Onions I don't usually clean until I'm prepping them, but I also will just leave them either in a little Tupperware container or just in a bag, and that works fine for me. Lettuce is another one that goes bad quickly, and so when I took them out of the plastic wrap, then you just take foil without cleaning the lettuce and you just wrap it extra tight, and that way lettuce will stay fairly fresh this way for up to 2 weeks. And then you just unwrap, and then you will find that it is as crisp and bright and green as the week prior. Last thing I will show you is cabbage. Now the cabbage is really sturdy and so it might look really sad right now. Get squeamish if you think that something's looking a little sad. Of course, where it's been exposed, then that has to be cleaned, it has to be removed. But inside, there is still perfectly good cabbage in here. I am not going to let this go to waste. There's plenty of ways that you can store food properly, not let it go to waste, and still get your money's worth, because produce is expensive. And as I mentioned, food is medicine. These are magical ingredients, lots of micronutrients, tons of antioxidants. These are so good for our health. And one more magic ingredient to show you. A few days ago, I took some dried humble lentils and put just a little bit in a glass jar. And thanks to just some overnight soaking and then rinsing a couple of times a day and setting in this little jar with a little bit of cheesecloth on top, I have this beautiful jar of lentil sprouts. I'll be putting some of that on the salad. This is a live postbiotic food. These are so packed full of nutrition and fun for kids to watch and help to put these together too. So take advantage of sprouting. It's a really economical way to get some extra nutrients, and lentils are so inexpensive, whether you buy them in bulk or just buy them in packages. A little teeny bit of lentils goes a long way when you're sprouting. Here's the spray bottle I used. It just has about this much white vinegar, the rest is water, and this is what I use to spray down all the vegetables. And then I'll be giving them just a light rinse and then chopping them up to put them in the salad. Okay, about 20 minutes has gone by on my end, and I did check the patties and they're not quite crisp enough to turn. In the meantime, I've already chopped up that romaine. I've got some spinach in here, and then a lot of that beautiful purple cabbage is in here. So now I'm just going to be chopping up the celery, getting the rest of the vegetables in here. And let me know in the comments if you are a salad lover and if this is something that you make a regular part of your meal plan, or if it's something that you only have on special occasions, or maybe you are avoiding it just because of the price of produce and then not feeling that you would be able to keep the vegetables fresh, or maybe you struggle getting your family or even yourself to eat enough vegetables. For a lot of people, if it's hard for you to digest raw vegetables, then certainly, a stir fry or having them steamed could be a much better option. I know a lot of people that just avoid salads just because it gives them heartburn or indigestion. And my channel and these videos, they're geared towards adults who are searching for a gentler, more realistic approach to wellness. And that's why I do make a lot of food videos. I make things that are geared towards, a budget-friendly way to make food part of your healing practice, a better way to manage health, a better way to manage your weight. And I would much rather do that with something beautiful, and to find doctors who want to partner with you and support you with a dietary approach too that's better for your health. Okay, now I've got the final bits of the vegetables all cut up: the radishes, cucumber, mushrooms, yellow pepper, and grated up a little bit of carrots to go in with all those greens, and the onions and celery. The patties are also ready to flip over, and so I actually just went in below each patty just to gently lift it up to make sure nothing was sticking. And you can see on one side how it's a little bit browner, and so as I turn these over, then I will be doing the same thing, spraying them, little dash of salt, back in the oven, and they'll be crisp and all ready to go. As you're flipping them over too, there might be little teeny pieces that are extra crispy, and that's always fun to have a little taste test, because every cook likes to taste as they go. At least I do. And same thing, gentle spritz of the balsamic vinegar to give it that nice flavor, a little bit of a tang, and of course a little bit of a darker color, which will be very, very pretty. And put all this vegetables in here, get a little bit of the seeds in there, and finish up. Okay, so here's the magic with this salad as far as storing it, so that way it will stay fresh the rest of the week. You could do it individually in jars if you like, even with the dressing, and make sure all of the sturdier vegetables are at the base and the delicate greens at the top. Though doing it this way, this will stay fresh, even though, yes, there's a lot of delicate greens in here, though there aren't any other vegetables that are going to get overly weepy in here. The only things that have a lot of moisture are the peppers, though they're fairly sturdy. If I was to put tomatoes in here, I wouldn't let it sit for more than 3 days. And then I would go through carefully and make sure some of the tomatoes weren't starting to get mushy, because even the mushrooms raw like this won't start to weep at all. And I will be able to put in the sprouts now. So I can add those in, and of course I can just add extra if I want to have more sprouts on my salad as I'm serving it. I'll put in the sunflower seeds now too, because they are raw, so there's no oil in here. So again, there's nothing really weepy. So as I give this a mix, then I'm just going to be taking a napkin and just dampen this a little bit, just so it's very, very damp, and then just put that across the top, and that will keep this crisp and fresh for the rest of the week. Now the salad's completely tossed, and I've just sprinkled a little bit of water on that napkin, and it just goes right across the top of the greens like that. And then I will seal the lid. As far as serving size, you know, this could be a side salad for your family. It's a main dish almost for me, because I'll also add things like chickpeas, and then I'll add some berries. I only have frozen blueberries this week, so I'll be thawing those out and then just adding those with the dressing to make this really nutrient dense. My prep is all done. The oat patties have come out. They are so crisp and brown, and you can see the color there. It's got such a nice texture, and the flavor is divine. These will stay good in the fridge for about a week or two, but they won't last that long. I will be eating those throughout the week, and I'm going to be saving some for a road trip that I'm planning on soon. Oh, still warm, so delicious on their own. I like to toast a sourdough muffin and then put a little bit of stone ground mustard, some fresh spinach, and then apricot jam, and create that as the sandwich. That's savory and sweet with these little savory oat patties. Delicious breakfast sandwich. So yummy. And then of course I've got my salad all prepped for my dinner tonight. I'm going to be making either some rice or some baked potatoes. I haven't decided yet because the oven's already warm. I might as well take advantage of that. This salad is prepped and ready to go. And thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate your time. I hope the information was useful and gave you some ideas. Give this a like if you found it informative. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.